Welcome to Stage 2, Materials and Tools. I will show you all the things you need to make a lino cut print. So I'm showing you the tools that I use, and I begin with using a newspaper. I use a newspaper because the table itself is too hard to print on, and you don't want anything too soft because your print sinks into that. So the newspaper seems to have the right amount of give. I generally have about at least a half a dozen sheets, often 10 sheets, and I also use newspapers to roll my ink on because it's also easy to dispose of. Then we have pencils and Sharpies. I use 2B grey leads because I would transfer the design, which I'll show you in the design process, and the 2B grey leads have enough lead residue that you can transfer easily. You used to use carbon paper, but it's no longer readily available, so the 2B leads work really good, and I use Sharpie pens to draw in my design. These are the cutting tools that I use, and I've got a range here. So starting from the cheapest ones, these are readily available on the market. They are very basic tools. They're okay when you're starting out with simple things. They've got extra cutting blades inside, and it's handy as a storage thing, so you've always got your tools with you. But these are very basic, and really if you want to do more lino cutting, or you think this technique is for you, I would advise you to actually perhaps look for more expensive tools. Then there are mid-range tools, which are Japanese. These don't have the fine V with them, which I like to use when I'm outlining, but their U-shaped tools are very useful, and it also comes with a useful little sharpening tool. These are available from art shops, and they're a mid-range kind of price. So these are quite cheap, these are mid-range. If you think this technique is for you, I would advise you to get the really good quality tools, and there's two brands on the market. File, which is a Swiss-made tool. It's got this lovely handle that sits really well in your hand, and the tools are easy to sharpen. They're always sharp, and I would advise you, if you're going to do more of this kind of work, that you invest in at least one of these, whether it's the fine V, which is number 12, or the slightly larger V, which is a 15. Both of these work. I have two of them because I do a lot of lino cutting, but you could get away with either one of these, and then you'll experience the difference. Now, these tools are in the $30 plus range per tool, but well worth the effort of purchasing and having at least one in your repertoire. Then what I use as my reservoir for my printing ink, I use meat trays, but you can use any flat surface really. The reason I use the meat tray is because afterwards I store my ink in Ziploc bags, and it's an easy way to put it into a Ziploc bag without it spilling over or without the plastic touching the ink. I also use disposable gloves in my printing process, and I find kitchen wipes are really useful because it is a slightly messy process and you will get ink on yourself, so it's really easy to use these to wipe the ink off very quickly. Then the roller I use, in Australia these are available from hardware stores. These ones come from Bunnings, but for anyone who's overseas, you're looking for a foam roller that's got quite dense foam. And you can see here that you can't really see any of the little holes in the foam. It is quite dense. This size roller works really well. This one is, I think it's 8 centimetres, oh no, 8.5 centimetres. This size works really well. You can actually buy smaller ones, but you need to have that dense foam. It's really important because the ink impregnates the foam, and if the foam has too many large holes in it, when you roll the ink onto your lino cut, it will actually show the little holes on the rolling. Then there is different kinds of lino. I use silk cut lino. This is a grey lino which is available in art shops. I like using the lino because I'm used to carving it. I like the print that I get from the lino. But there are other products available on the market which are often used by stampers. One of them is Easy Cut and Easy Carve. Some of them have different names. They're all essentially the same kind of thing. They're a synthetic rubber, and you can see here from the image on the front that it's used by a lot of stampers. I actually prefer using the lino because I feel like I get a better print with the lino. But having said that, if you've got arthritic hands, then you're probably better off with some of these Easy Cut materials because they are easier to cut. I want to show you the printing inks that I use. These are fabric textile printing inks, and I've got a number of different bases here. I've got a unilateral base and an opaque base. They both do different jobs. I use these particular kind of inks because they're designed for use on fabric, and that's really important that you use fabric textile inks. Now, I buy them in this size because I do a lot of printing, but there are other textile printing inks readily available. There is, for example, Permaset and Speedball in different countries. So you just look for fabric textile printing ink in your particular country. There's also Jacquard, but they come in quite small containers. And if you're going to do a lot of printing, I would suggest you go for at least a 250ml container. Then, as I explained, these are actually the emulsions that the colour is suspended in. So I have pigment that I add to these to get the colours that I want. And in the notes which accompany the class, there'll be a discussion of how much of this pigment you put into these emulsions. Okay, so these are all the tools and equipment that I use, and I will now see you in stage 3, which is the design process.